Hey guys, it's Rylan from Illumaesthetic, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a set of FD RX7 taillights. Yeah. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over to our oven and we're going to preheat it to 170 or 180, and then I'm going to go ahead and put our taillight in there and bake it until it's golden brown. And we'll come back to it in like 15 minutes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that before I put them in the oven, I took out all these screws on the back that are holding the light together. I already took apart the other one that I put in the oven, so make sure you do that first. Sick. Alright, so we got the light open, and now this reflector needs to come out. It looks like there's just 2 screws in the corners, so we're going to take those out, and then we are going to fit our panels inside of it. Alright guys, so I have my lights taken apart and we have our panels. So this build's going to be using Corso Motion sequential modules for the turn signals, and then the Corso Motion dimming modules for the brake and DRL. So I have my soldering iron, LEDs, resistors, modules, panels, coffee. So let's start wiring. Alright, so I have all my LEDs in, and what I did is I aligned them all in the same direction so that when I go to wire in my resistors, these leads are all facing each other, and these are going to be groups of 3. And on the resistor guide that comes with all of our DIY kits, it'll tell you which resistors you're going to use for groups of 3, groups of 4, groups of 5, and what colors. In this case, we're using yellow LEDs in groups of 3, so I'm going to be using 680 ohm resistors. So let's get all these leads trimmed and bent down and get all the resistors soldered. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have all of the LEDs trimmed, and don't do this anywhere with carpet because these are going to go all over the place. And if you're worried about not knowing which ones are positive and negative after you trim the leads, if you look really closely, each LED has a little flat edge on it, and that side is going to be your negative. So you can just look at that while you're wiring it if you forget, but they should all be facing the same direction either way, so these should all be my positives. So I shouldn't have to worry about that, hopefully. So let's go ahead and put the resistors in. Alright, so we have the panels all wired up, and the way that this is wired, since the Corso Motion module uses a common positive, I have all the positives wired together up here on one wire, and I have that wire going to the module, and then each of my groups of 9 LEDs are on a yellow wire, and those go to each part of each section on the module, which will make it sequential. And then you have little switches here to adjust the animation that you want, and then we just have turn signal and ground coming off of that. So I'm just going to test and make sure this works, and it does. So then we can go on to doing the LED strips for the diffusion. And the way that I'm going to do that is, since there's not a ton of room here in the light, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the LED strips along the edge of the light, or the housing, which should light it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those directly in there, and I'm going to wire them. Alright, so we have our LED strips wired up, everything's in there, and I just wired it directly on the housing, and then I have my dimming module wired to those, and now I'm just going to use a piece of styrene to cover the back of these LEDs so that the LED strips don't shine through the front and they only light up the diffusion. So all of our DIY kits should come with styrene for you to use. Usually it's for the LED strips, but we're just going to use it to cover the back of the panel here since we have the LED strips on the housing. Okay, so I have this styrene piece cut and glued to the back of my panel, just covering the LEDs. Make sure you don't cover the diffusion strip here so that light can still get to that. And I also glued our Corso Motion panel into the housing. And you don't have to do this, but I cut out part of the housing so you can still reach the switches and the speed adjustment. And then I also glued in our dimming module. I put some glue on the LED strips and the wiring so that doesn't move. And then now I'm just going to put our panel in. And I'm going to use this double-sided foam tape on the sides to make sure that light doesn't leak around the edges here. So when we put our panel in, you see that there's kind of a gap, so we're going to fill that with the foam tape. And then have the panel glued in, and then all we have to do is put the lens back on and then we're done. So let's do that. So our panel's in, we have the foam tape around. Over here, I just made sure it was glued down because it gets covered by the lens. But if you have a different lens that's not tinted and like red and you can see everything under it, I would probably clean it up a little bit more. But for this light, this will work. Everything will get covered, and then we can go ahead and put this lens back on. Alright, our lens is on, and I have the light plugged in to make sure everything still works. None of the light gets blocked off. And we have our turn signal. So now this light's done, and that's it. And you can do this for any diffused and 5mm LED designs, or just any diffused designs. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah.